Picture this. You grab your keys, you pick up your bag, and before you've even reached for your shoes, your dog is already there, sitting at the door, watching you. Not barking, not jumping, just waiting. Most people see this and think, they know I'm leaving, they want to come with me. And that's probably true, but there's something else happening in that moment. Something quieter and honestly something more remarkable that most owners walk right past every single day. What your dog is doing at that door is not just waiting for a walk, it's not just hoping to hop in the car, it's one of the most sophisticated forms of communication a domestic dog is capable of. And once you understand what's actually behind it, you'll never look at that moment the same way again. Let's start with what seems obvious, and then take it apart. When your dog positions themselves at the door before you leave, the easy explanation is that they've learned the routine. Keys equal departure, bag equals departure, shoes equal departure. Dogs are incredibly good at pattern recognition, and they absorb the signals of our daily lives far faster than we realize. But here's what's interesting. It's not just that they've learned the routine, it's what they do with that knowledge. A dog who understands your routine isn't passively sitting there, waiting for whatever comes next. They're actively predicting, and that prediction is a form of emotional preparation. Think about what that means. Your dog, in the time it takes you to grab your keys, has already begun adjusting to what's about to happen. They've moved themselves to the relevant location, they've oriented their body toward the threshold, they're watching your face for confirmation. That's not a simple conditioned response, that's anticipation. And anticipation requires a mental model of the future, something researchers have found dogs are surprisingly good at building, especially when it involves the people they're attached to. Now here's where it gets genuinely fascinating. Not all door waiting looks the same, and the differences matter. Some dogs wait at the door with their tail moving, their posture loose, their eyes bright. They're reading as excited, and they usually are. This is a dog who has positive associations with the departure ritual. Maybe the door means a walk, maybe it means the car, which means somewhere interesting. Maybe it just means they get to be part of whatever comes next. But some dogs wait at the door differently. Their body is lower, their tail is still or tucked slightly. Their ears are soft, pulled back just a little. They might yawn, not because they're tired, but because yawning is one of the ways dogs discharge low-level stress. They might look at you, look away, look back. These two dogs are doing the same behavior on the surface, but underneath they're in completely different emotional states. The second dog isn't excited, the second dog is bracing. And if you've never paused long enough to notice the difference, you're not alone. Most owners are moving too quickly in those departure moments. We're checking our phones, running through our mental to-do list, looking for our other shoe, and we miss what our dog is actually telling us. Let's talk about what your scent has to do with all of this, because this part tends to surprise people. Dogs experience the world primarily through smell. We know this intellectually, but we tend to underestimate what it actually means for their emotional life. When you leave the house, you don't just leave physically, you leave chemically. Your scent, which carries information about your stress level, your health, your emotional state, begins to fade from the home the moment you walk out the door. For a dog who is deeply attached to their owner, that fading is something they actually experience. It's not abstract, it's sensory. The space you occupied smells less like you every hour you're gone. This is one reason why many dogs gravitate to their owner's belongings, a worn shirt, a pillow, a spot on the couch, while the owner is away. They're not being clingy or destructive. They're maintaining olfactory contact with the person who makes them feel settled. And the door, that threshold where your scent is most concentrated, where you last stood, where the outside world begins, becomes a kind of anchor point, a place where your presence lingers longest. When your dog waits at the door, they may be in part staying close to the last place that smelled like you. There's a concept in animal behavior research called the secure base effect. You may have heard it applied to children, the idea that a child with a secure attachment to a caregiver uses that caregiver as a base from which to explore the world. When the caregiver is present, the child is braver. When the caregiver disappears, the child becomes uncertain. Researchers have found the same pattern in dogs. In studies where dogs were given puzzle tasks, they performed better, showed more persistence, more confidence when their owner was in the room. When the owner left, performance dropped, even when the dog had previously solved the same puzzle without difficulty. Your presence is not just comforting to your dog, it actively changes what they're capable of. So when your dog positions themselves at the door as you prepare to leave, one of the things happening is a kind of recalibration. They are adjusting to the coming absence of their secure base, and the door is where that transition happens. This is why some dogs settle quickly after you leave. They've learned that the departure is temporary, that you come back, that the separation is manageable, and other dogs don't settle. They pace, they vocalize, they scratch at the door. Not because they're badly trained, but because for them the absence feels genuinely destabilizing. Here's something worth watching for the next time you leave the house. Pay attention to what your dog does in the last 30 seconds before you walk out. Not just where they are, but how they carry themselves, where they're looking, what their tail is doing, whether they come to you or hold back. A dog who approaches you, maybe nudges your hand or leans briefly against your leg and then steps back, that's often a dog checking in, confirming the interaction before the separation. There's something almost tender about it when you recognize it for what it is. A dog who watches from across the room, who doesn't approach, who seems to have already started managing the distance emotionally. That dog may have learned over time that departures are easier when they don't get too close to the door. Both of these are coping strategies. Neither is wrong. But they tell you something about how your dog experiences your absence, and that's worth knowing. Now let's flip the scenario entirely, because the door doesn't only matter when you leave. What your dog does when you come home is the other half of this story, and the two are connected in ways that reveal something remarkable about how dogs process time and attachment. Most owners expect excitement when they return, and many dogs deliver it enthusiastically, jumping, spinning, vocalizing, unable to contain themselves. But pay attention to what happens in the minute or two after the initial greeting. Does your dog stay close? Do they follow you from room to room as you put things down, change your shoes, open the refrigerator? Do they settle only once they've confirmed through physical proximity that you are actually back and staying? This is a dog completing a loop. The door was where the separation began. Your return is where the loop closes. And until it closes fully, until they've sniffed you, touched you, confirmed that you are genuinely physically present, many dogs remain in a low-level state of alertness. The calm that settles over a dog after a proper homecoming greeting isn't just relief, it's a physiological shift. Cortisol levels, the stress hormone that rose during your absence, begin to drop. Oxytocin, associated with social bonding, moves in the other direction. The room, which during your absence had been growing quieter and emptier in a very real chemical sense, is becoming itself again. Your dog doesn't calm down because they decided to be calm. They calm down because you came back and their body followed. There's one more layer to this that doesn't get talked about enough. Dogs who wait at the door aren't just responding to your departure, they're responding to you, specifically to the version of you that exists in the moments before leaving. Think about your own state during those pre-departure minutes. You're often rushed, your attention is scattered, you're mentally already partway out the door. Your energy, the pace of your movement, the tone of your voice if you speak, the tension or looseness in your body is different from how you are when you're settled at home. Dogs read this, they read it constantly, and they read it well. So when your dog is at that door watching you, they're not just tracking whether you're leaving, they're reading the quality of your departure, how stressed you are, how distracted, whether you pause to acknowledge them or move through them like they weren't there. This matters because dogs regulate partly in response to the people around them. A calm departure from a calm owner lands differently than a frantic one, and over time, the emotional texture of your departures shapes how your dog experiences them. This isn't about performing a perfect goodbye ritual. It's just worth knowing that in those last few moments before you leave, your dog is paying closer attention to you than you probably are to them. So what does all of this add up to? That dog at the door, the one you've walked past 100 times, the one you've explained away as excitement or habit or just dog stuff, is doing something genuinely sophisticated. They have mapped your routines, they have learned the signals of departure, they have positioned themselves at the most emotionally significant threshold in their world, and they are watching your face, reading your body, and managing their own internal state as best they can. That's not a small thing. The door is not just an exit. For your dog, it's the place where the world of together ends and the world of waiting begins, and the fact that they're there every time, watching, not with panic but with attention, says something real about how completely you've become part of their life. The next time you grab your keys, take one extra second, look at your dog, really look, because they're already looking at you. If your dog waits at the door every time you leave, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear what that moment looks like in your house. And if this kind of deep, everyday look at what your dog is actually telling you is something you want more of, subscribing is the best way to stay close to it. New videos go up regularly and we keep going deeper every time.